Alright, in my other video I told you there's going to come a point where I won't be able to really be making videos. So I'm trying to squeeze one last video in, and the topic is going to be, I've watched other people's channels, and a lot of people make a video, top 5 surplus guns under $500, or top 10 guns, or what to buy in 2020, 2021. Alright, and the one thing in Readiness Review, he did, I watched his video, he mentioned ammunition. Okay, he kind of glanced over it. He mentioned ammunition and condition of the gun in terms of price and so forth. Well, what I'm going to do is basically for members, because many people ask me about my reloading videos for load data and how do you load the ammo. And I call them common calibers. What I mean by that is something I can buy the brass and bullets off the shelf. I don't have to modify a cartridge to make it into like the Verndl or the 43 Mauser or the 10.4 Italian. You have to modify another cartridge, then go to reload it. And reloading dies for a lot of those older guns are in the $200 to $250 price range. So everybody looks for some kind of low-cost alternative to half-ass load it and that. And truthfully, I'm kind of done arguing with people over this point. So the reason I didn't cover a lot of the guns that we're going to look at in the calibers today is because a vast majority of these firearms you can buy reloading components. Now, granted, at one point in time, they're a little tricky to find in normal times. Now, the price has gone up, and it's awful difficult to find reloading components of any type, especially for the less commonly requested guns in the calibers we're going to cover. Okay? So I'll show you the guns, I'll take the gun, discuss the gun a little bit, the type of rifle, talk about, the price of them or my opinion on it and how collectible they are, and then, or what to watch out for with this specific type of gun, because each model and type has, something to be, some opinion of it that maybe I'll warn you about. And then I'll tell you how difficult it is to reload. Now, when I say that most of these calibers are available, and there are 3 guns I'm going to talk about where ammunition is not available, and reloading components will be very difficult to find. Okay, but most of the guns, I did a search on AmmoSeek, and I will tell you what I found on AmmoSeek and the current price as of yesterday. Okay, and there is a flux of when stuff will be out of stock, then when it will be back, and I'll kind of give you an idea on how the availability in general is, both now during the crisis and when things are normal. So let's take a look, because I'll prove to you, I got a semblance of my collection out here. We're going to look at the guns and cover each one by one. So this may be a long video, but a lot of information in here. Alright, here are the guns laid out. I'm going to talk about the rifle a little bit, the availability of ammunition, and how difficult or expensive it will be to reload. Granted, reloading can be, with a total outright purchase, be almost expensive as buying the ammunition itself. And some of these guns may need a little bit of extra attention. Some of them do not. Okay? And some of them will just be if the components are available. But that's what we're looking at, and I'll cover each one of these and talk a little bit about the gun and how difficult it is, or what the current ammunition prices are and availability, at this point in time. Okay, first up is the Japanese Type 99 rifle. This is an early war one, okay, because it can take the monopod in fairly nice shape, has the rear sight with the anti-aircraft wings, should have a dust cover, which you really never found on any of them. It was rare to find them. The mum is ground on this one, and it has a metal butt plate. Thing about the Type 99s, they were the strongest action when the Army did destructive testing at the end of World War II. These guns had the strongest action of any military bolt-action rifle in World War II. These guns also have a chrome-lined bore, and in all the years I've seen these weapons, okay, I've never found one with a tore-up bore. Okay, once you clean the dirt and grime out, the bores were always good. Now the mum, why the mum was ground. Japanese, anyone who knows anything about Japanese rifles is when they sell their gun surplus, they deface the mum, because the mum means to them that it is property of the emperor. So probably after the war, when they surrendered the guns, either the Japanese or the US ground the mum off, somebody did, to appease the Japanese people. That's why the mum is ground. Now, the cartridge, 7.7. Availability. Okay, my search online only produced one place, and it is a reloading company. It's not an ammunition company, I forget the name of it, but it was $69.90 for 20 rounds of ammo, okay, which is way, way overpriced. I do not know if anyone commercially, I think Norma may produce it commercially, but I have not seen it. PPU does make brass and the bullets of the correct diameter, which is the same that goes in the 303 British. I think 312 or something is what works on this. And you can get 170 grain bullets in that. And in actuality, it is not difficult to reload. You can get RCBS dies at which are probably the best quality you're going to get. I don't know if Lee makes them, and probably at one time, I don't know, I haven't checked, Hornady and several of the other companies, it should be common enough to where you can still find dies, okay? So it's not that uncommon. And you can get fresh factory brass and the bullets. You will not find it in a local shop. Probably Graff & Sons or an online component seller would be the best place to go. And actually, if you load your own, it's not that bad. Price-wise, at one time, buying brand new brass and components and loading this, say 15 years ago, it was maybe $18 a box. And then over time, as the components went up, it got into about, $28 a box, another $10, see, over time. Now I have no idea, but still, compared to $80 for 20 rounds, yes, reloading this round will save you money, okay? So, that's it. On scale of difficulty, like I said, you're not going to find the components in your local store. You're going to have to order them. But reloading components can be shipped to your home. All right, on to the next one. All right, next up is the French Mauser and 7.5 by 54 caliber. Now these rifles, when they came in the 80s, they used to stack them up wrapped in wax paper like firewood, and they went from $65 to $80 a piece. Now you're lucky to find one for $4, and I've seen auctions where they've gone up well over $5, if not more. So it kind of depends on how bad you want one. All of these guns were refinished and packaged and put into storage. So basically most of them came with a decent bore. You may find some, because the ammunition they were selling with these was corrosive. If someone fired the gun and ever cleaned it, you may find some of these examples that look nice, but the bore's destroyed. Okay. Now, strange thing about this caliber. This is another caliber that was available from PPU, factory fresh ammo. It's a 30 caliber bullet. Okay, so reloading for this isn't that bad, but the French round came with a 30 caliber full metal jacket, 139 grains. So it's 10 grains lighter than the standard US 308 round. Now, a lot of people will rechamber these into 308. And I wouldn't do it. I mean, it's a little bit difficult to reload the ammo yourself. You can get the factory ammo, which is fine if you can find it. Okay, which PPU makes it. The reason people won't stock it, and every caliber we're going to cover in this list, I went to a gun show and I had a table with every single caliber on there. And I would go to several gun shows and not sell one box. Then all of a sudden during the 2-day event, some guy comes up, sees 7.7 Japanese, and he will buy everything I have. 5 boxes, 10 boxes, he'll buy it all. So that's why dealers don't stock this stuff. They'll buy 10 boxes in a case is 200, they'll put it on the shelf, and it takes them 4 or 5 years to sell it all. Okay? And that's how people buy it. That's why you will not see it in retail stores. Okay, so difficulty in reloading this. Lee does make the dies. I have a set of Lee dies, so the dies are not that expensive, and they have a shell holder and everything with them. And this is really simple, basic reloading once you have the brass. Either you buy the new brass or you buy the PPU ammo, and you have reloadable brass. It is a simple cartridge to load. These guns are extremely accurate. Hand loading, you can tweak the load down to where this gun is a very accurate weapon, and it's simple. Okay, it's just the case is a different shape than like a 308 or something like that. Not difficult to reload at all, and you can get really outstanding results with it. Swedish Mauser in 6.5 by 55. Ammunition is readily available, and you can find some foreign brands for about $1.30 a round. Factory fresh ammo, it is there. Story on these guns, like everyone said, Swedish guns, super high quality. Sweden was neutral, never really went to war, so you rarely, if ever, find guns that are really beat up. You'll find most of the examples are very nice. This one here I'm going to say is average. And there are some that are super mint. I mean, the wood is perfect and beautiful. And I have seen some examples where somehow somebody's fired them and the bores are crap. But mainly when you find most of these, they have a fairly decent bore. Okay? What happened with these is for years nobody really cared much for them, but then when the internet, oh, these are super accurate rifles and blah blah blah, and then next thing you know, everybody's got to have one of these, so the price has gone up. There was a time when I had a super mint example years ago I couldn't sell for $125. 10 years ago, an example in this condition was about $380, $400, and then really nice ones were in the $400 to $450 range. You know, the guy was kind of grading them. And now the last gun show I went to, a gun nicer than this, I mean with impeccable wood and that and everything, $750. Okay, so everyone's got to have one. They are a very accurate gun. Okay, so that's why the demand and the price went up. Now, as for reloading, again, this is a simple one. Much like 30-06 or any common caliber, this is probably out of all the guns the most common caliber you will find. They do use 264 diameter bullets, okay, which are abundant and they work well. And reloading for this is quite simple, okay. You can get the components easily, and probably the brass you would have to order. But you could walk into a store, you know, the powder, the primers, and the bullets will be in just about any store. It uses a standard 6.5 bullet, okay? And there's tons of reloading data. This is a real simple one to reload for. The only thing is, you know, talking about reloading, when it comes to cost, nowadays, you know, years ago it was cheaper, but the key is once you get the brass, the most expensive component of your ammo is the brass. Once you accumulate some brass, either you buy the new ammo, fire it, and then have the brass, or buy the brass. You know, you can reload if you're careful and know what you're doing about, you know, say 5 to 6 times. So deduct the cost of the brass out of your ammunition, and that's where your savings comes from. All right, the 6.5 Carcano. I'm not going to say a damn thing about the rifles, but this model here is the last one that is still available at about 200 bucks. Okay? Now, since these guns came in well over a year ago, a year and a half ago, the ammunition has been critical and insane. Okay? Old surplus ammo, if you can find it, is excruciatingly expensive and probably doesn't work well, and I don't recommend shooting it. PPU makes ammo, okay, but they only make it with a 264 diameter bullet. Now, why, or if they make it with the larger 267 diameter bullet, I don't know. I've heard rumors and did research, but if there was ever a reason to learn to reload, it's if you own one of these guns, and there are a lot of them out there, and a lot of you guys are looking for it. So to put it in a nutshell, Hornady used to make a heavy bullet, 160 grain, that was the correct diameter. It's no longer in production. So the only game in town you have is PPU. PPU does make the brass, and it is kind of readily available. You can find it. Okay, so that's not a problem. The bullet. PPU does make a 140 grain bullet that is 267 diameter, which is the correct bullet. It's the only correct bullet closest to the original you're going to find. You could try the 125 or something. They have a lighter hunting soft point bullet if you like, but I would stick with the 149, okay? And I developed the load for it. It's fairly accurate, but to tell you the truth, loading for this, the best all-round bullet is the cast bullet load. Actually, people on some forums call it the Cobra 49 load. It's an NEO bullet mold. It's a 160 grain bullet. I size them to 270, and no matter how crappy your bore or worn out it is, whatever, those bullets shoot well. It's a light load, so you can get a lot of reloads out of your brass. And as far as, like I said, components are readily available, but they'll be tough to find because the minute they get them, they're sold out. There's a huge demand. Lee makes a set of dies. The only thing, at one time they had it with 2 expanding plugs in it, one for 264 and one for 268. But I've heard from people that now the new Lee dies only ship with the smaller diameter expanding plug, I believe. I'm not quite sure. But that's something to look out for. But if you buy Hornady reloading dies, they do have the proper expanding plug in them. They're more expensive than the Lee's. Plus the Lee shell holder. Getting the correct shell holder for the 6.5 and the 7.35 can be tricky, and I have made videos discussing that in detail. But that's the story there. And, the only ammunition I found was Stenel, and it was $2 a round, which I believe is a tad bit high, compared to old prices, but nowadays that's about it. So you're going to pay $2 a round to get the stuff from Stenel. Type 38 Japanese rifles in 6.5. These are a little bit different than the Type 99s. The 6.5s do not have a chrome line bore, so the main problem with these guns is finding a weapon that has a decent bore, shootable bore. A bunch of the Type 38 rifles were imported from another country. I believe they were in service other than with Japan for years. And anything with a big rack number on it was out of that batch, and all of them are shot out. I wouldn't even bother buying one. And a lot of the Japanese guns I found, because the bores were not chrome lined and people shot the old ammo in them, the bores are wrecked. Actually, the only decent rifle I have is a Carcano Type I in 6.5, and that's what I use as a test platform. This little carbine is in exceptional condition, okay, and it has a nice bore, but it is a short barrel. So when developing a load, I like to do it in a rifle and then see what happens with the carbine. This gun is in exceptional condition, and at the time I bought this many years ago, I think I paid $350 for it, which I thought was an exorbitant price and that I overpaid. But now, and a mum's ground on this, a gun in this condition, nowadays, if you found one at a gun show, last time I seen one like this was $750, and that was years ago. So God only knows what something in this condition brings, okay? But the 6.5s, they use a standard 246 or 264 diameter bullet. Okay, yeah, 264 diameter bullet. Sorry about that. So finding a bullet about 140 grains is about what you want to go with, and that's quite common. PPU makes them, and there's several other commercial things. Now, ammo-wise, Norma ammo for this gun is available, okay? And it's anywhere from $2.75 to $3 a round, okay? And that is Norma factory ammo, probably the best ammo you can get. Reloading dies are available. I have Hornadays, and I think I had a set from Lee, so you can get them whenever reloading supplies are in stock. It is kind of a common caliber. You can buy brass from Norma, which will be over $1 a piece for the brass. And that was pre-crisis prices. You can get it for under $1 from PPU. Okay, so brass is available, bullets are available, dies are available. This is not a difficult round to reload for. You can get stuff right off the shelf. You may not find it in a local gun shop, but you can order it and get it delivered to your house fairly easily and fairly reasonable. Okay, at one time. One thing to be warned, other than the bad bores, like I said, finding a Type 38 rifle with a decent bore is tough. These guns, much like the Lee Enfield, have a wide open chamber on them. And that was done because in the tropics, the Japanese made the chamber bigger so the cases wouldn't get stuck. And you will find, depending on your gun, okay, and it varies from gun to gun, you will have a deformed piece of brass because the chamber is wide open. Some of these it's really bad noticeable, some of them are not. I believe I made a video on it. So be warned. That's about the only difficult thing about reloading for this, okay, is if you got a gun with a weird chamber, it could put a lot of stress on your brass and it won't hold up that long. Next, 7.5 Swiss. Alright, this is another rifle, kind of overlooked and not really a lot of interest for years. Then somebody gets them when they're coming in, and oh gee, they're really high quality, they're super accurate guns, blah 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 blah, and they've gone from a gun that reasonably was $300 to $350 to now where they're $700-800 a piece, you know. So again, bought a lot of them out there, very popular. Good news is you can still, I found PPU ammo with the proper 174 grain bullet for about $1.45 a box, which, you know, that's upwards close to $30 a box from, used to be $22, $24, but that's what you're looking at. And the ammunition is fantastic from PPU. It's the correct bullet, it's the correct thing. In any 1911 or K31, it works fine. okay, and it gives great results. But you're looking at 30 bucks, you know, $1.50 a round. Now, reloading for these. If you have an 1889, the older one, you must reload. You either have to have a reduced charge, or I'm working on a cast bullet, which is also an underpower load because of the chamber pressures. But if you go from the 1911s on up, again, this is a simple one. You can get brass, okay, fairly easily. Either buy new brass or from your expended cartridges there, box or prime. Some people like to take the military surplus brass and reload the Barrett and primers. I kind of don't recommend that. It can be done, but it's more of a hassle than saving you any money. Okay. Now, the only tricky thing about reloading for this gun, okay, you can get the brass and you can get the correct PPU makes 174 grain bullet. Just how available it is, I don't know. But you can get it, and there's a lot of load data out there that you can find and probably work up a really nice load fairly easily. The only thing you'd have to worry about is there is something, and I covered this in a video. There are two types of reloading dies, okay? The chambers on all of these guns vary from the 1898 to the 1889, 1898, and this as they change the ammo to the K31. There are dies that specifically will size the brass for the K31, and it may be problematic getting it into the 1911s. If you get the dies, and it's just a matter of how the shoulder is formed in the die, is what it is. If you get an older set of dies, or you get dies that are marked for the 1911, that should be fine, and those cartridges will work in all the rifles, you know, once you size it. Okay, that die will size, and the case will fit in all of the guns, okay? So that's about the only tricky thing. Again, is it worth it? You can still get the ammo. If you want to save a little bit of money and get into reloading, you can do it fairly easily. The dies are common now, and components are also. You know, again, you may have to mail order for the PPU, brass, and bullets, but they are available. 7.62 by 54R. Not going to say much about the Mauser Nagants and all the variants. Everybody should know this is a popular gun at one, or was a popular gun when they were $100 a piece. Now they run in a $350 range, and generally most of them were in very good condition. Very rarely would you find one of these guns with a bad bore that wouldn't shoot halfway decent. So, you know, plus the ammo. Gone are the days of $5 for 20 rounds of machine gun ammo. It wasn't reloadable, but it was fairly decent ammo, and there were tons of it. Was tons of the stuff at one time. I guess now those sardine cans full of that ammo are extremely expensive. What I found online is you can get factory fresh steel case stuff in 20 round boxes from like 57 cents to 65 cents a round. Now, some people, it may be a tad bit on the expensive side, and I believe any type of a reloadable brass case ammo is probably in the $1.50 to $1.75 range. So, reloading. Again, this is a common caliber. You can easily get components. I believe most of the major U.S. companies used to make this brass. Whether they do or not with any consistency, but PPU, Norma, and some other overseas overseas companies outside of the U.S. do make brass, and some of it can be quite expensive, to where PPU is probably your best bet overall. The quality is good, and the price is usually lower than the other competitors. So, bullets, 312 thousandths diameter bullet, which is commonly available. or it used to be, so it's not a difficult item to find, the correct bullet, and you can get a whole choice of varying weights in that. And I believe PPU probably has a full metal jacket bullet, which would be your best bet. Dies, I think every major reloading company at one point in time made the dies for this rifle. Okay, so you can go with Lee all the way up to the top of the line. Okay, so not a difficult thing to find. Brass is easy to find, and that, again, maybe not in your local store, but you can find it online and get it mail ordered to your house. Not that bad. Cast bullets, I did one deal with cast bullets, and I may have to revise it. I got a different type of bullet and bullet mold. The only reason, if you do not cast bullets, you may be able to find something suitable from a company, but if you're the type of person that's into reloading where you cast your own bullets and have a source of lead that you can get reasonable bullets of good quality, then that's where you'll save some money making some cast bullet rounds to make a plinking load. How much less it would save you than going with the jacketed bullet route, you know, that's up to you. I can't say now because everything with reloading is so in flux. It's difficult. But this would not be a difficult one to learn to reload for. Alright, 7x57 Mauser. Okay, generally most of you guys probably have the old Spanish 1893 Mausers. This is a Brazilian 1908 built on it's a 98 action. Okay. Now this gun is in exceptional condition. I bought this many years ago when you could find stuff like this in surplus. Okay. I don't know what these go for, but something in this condition with a mint bore, generally, you know, now last time I checked was like $750, $800, but now probably if I got in a correct auction with any luck, well over $1,000. Now, most of what I'm seeing out there are the 93 Spanish. I have one or two examples, I just didn't find them. And the thing about them is you're paying $300 to $400 for them, and those guns are shot out. I have seen tons of examples that are just shot to hell. Now, the cost of ammunition is anywhere from $1.15 for factory ammo to $1.85, okay, for the 7mm Mauser. It used to be popular enough years ago that in the 70s, most of the major gun manufacturers still, like Remington and Ruger, would chamber guns in this caliber along with the 6.5 Mauser, Swedish Mauser. But not anymore. There's newer, greater, better things out there. But you still have tons of surplus guns. So availability ain't bad. I know PPU makes ammo, and PPU makes brass and the bullets. Okay, the correct diameter. Actually, finding 7mm bullets are quite common. You have a wide variety. Reloading dies for this is probably available. They're quite common. So you're not in an expensive category. You know, probably Lee and all the major manufacturers make them. So that's not a big problem, and it is a simple reloading project. Okay? So reloading for this is not terrible. The cost-wise, you know, like I said, it's difficult to say because the cost of reloading is almost going to cost you as much as buying some types of factory ammo. But this is not a tough one. This one's pretty common, and you know, if you have a wide range of bullets, you can tailor make something that fits well into your rifle. I will say one thing, that reloading, especially with the older guns, you can load it down and be safe in the older actions. Other than full power like this 98 action, you can step up the load on a 7mm and get its maximum performance, okay, in an action like this. And like I said, the only thing that's going to screw you up is when you get a gun that's beat up and the bore's worn out, kind of like Readiness Review. He had that 7mm, and he did the bullet test, and it goes right up to the case mouth. And even though the bore is dirty and you can see traces of rifling, just because there's a spiral pattern in the bore, okay, doesn't mean that the rifle will shoot well. Generally, the Spanish guns are shot out, worn out, and looking down his photographs of the bore, there's barely a thousandths left in the depth of the rifling. Okay, it's worn out that bad. A thousandths, maybe 2, or there should be 4 or 6. And the actual bore, if the bullet goes in like that, the bore itself is worn out, whether there's any trace of rifling or not. So that's about the only thing you're going to find in guns of this caliber, is they're pretty much shot out. And like I said, at $1.50 to $1.75 a round, and even if you do reload, the guns will not produce any type of accuracy to your liking. Okay, so that's the only catch there. If you got one in condition like this thing shoots great because it has more or less a mint bore on it. Okay, and they're accurate guns. But the only thing is, the quality of stuff coming into the country now is the only thing that'll deter you in this department. All right, the 8mm Lebel and the French rifles that go with them. This one here is a Remington Arms made Berthier rifle that was made up in World War I. And I believe the French rejected them and sent them back to Remington. So these things, this was probably sold as surplus back in the 20s or 30s or whatever. So it's a good example, but it's not French. Okay. I do have, I think, 1896 or 93, whatever. I do have the other rifle, but I just took this one out for the example. Royal Tigers bought a ton of these in. The price on these guns has shot up. These things were common. And Remington and that used to make the ammo. I remember I bought a carbine back when I was in high school, and I went to the local gun shop, and he had 2 boxes of Remington ammo. It was probably made in the 60s or 50s. But I had ammunition, non-corrosive, non-military ammo that fired well in it. But the only producer of 8mm Lebel ammunition in the world today is PPU. They make the brass, and the bullet is tricky. I'd have to do an in-depth video on reloading, but the bullet could be tricky on this one when you come to reloading. And when I did look up PPU ammunition, surprisingly, I found it from $1.25 to $1.47 a round, which is pretty amazing. The only thing is, you will not find it in the store. It's almost impossible. You have to go to an online company that's advertising it and buy the ammo from them. So out of all the ones that you thought would be obscure, this one, the price isn't too bad, and it is available from several sources. Now, for reloading, dies are available. Dies could be tricky, because I think I have an old set of Lyman dies. The dies can be tricky. I don't know if Lee makes an 8mm Lebel die set. They may not. But dies can be problematic, because I forget. Or maybe they do. I think I did, and then when I got the Lyman set, I sold the Lee set. So dies can be problematic, okay, on this caliber. As far as the brass, the only game in town is PPU, and you'll have to mail order that, and you can get it in bags of 50. It's expensive now. It's over $1 a piece. Now, as for the bullet, this is the questionable thing. French rifles have used different ammunition. This one is not stamped. The French rifle will have either an N or a D, which designates rechambering for a certain type of ammo. Some people load them with a standard 8mm bullet, which does not quite work well. I was not satisfied with it. You have to modify another bullet to get it to work in here, and then these guns are deadly accurate when you reload for them. But that will be in a separate video when I discuss reloading this. So this one, reloading can be, it's a little bit more difficult. You know, all the other ones are pretty much, you get the components, you just do standard reloading. This one you got to tweak and screw within availability of the dies. The components can be got when in stock. That could be a problematic too, because sometimes PPU, the stuff will dry up for a year or so, but then you got to wait for them to produce it again. So this is one of them ones that's a little bit more difficult. And then again, same thing like with 7mm. You got a bore worth of crap. A lot of these guns coming out of Ethiopia got pretty crappy bores, and if you're dropping $1.50 a pop, and no matter what you put in the gun isn't going to shoot worth a damn, well, you know. So there's something else you got to take into consideration. All right, 8mm Mauser. Now, why do I have a Gewehr 88 up here? Well, because the 8mm Mauser was a standard cartridge for many years, for many different militaries. In Yugoslavia, it was used in machine guns and rifles all the way up until the 90s, turned, 2000. So you can still find plenty of surplus ammo out there for the 8mm Mauser. And if you got a good 98 style action, be it Yugo, German, whatever, a good gun, a 98 gun that's headspace and that correct, you can get surplus ammo from 45 cents, 75 cents a round. Still available. I found it. Your commercial ammo is probably going to ratchet that up to $1.50, depending on what company that, but probably at least you're going to get $1.50, $1.25. I don't know if I looked it up on there. Did I? Some of it's $3 a round, I think. Okay, yeah. So commercial ammo going to be a lot more. Now, why reload? That's why I got the Gewehr 88. Some people shoot this with standard surplus ammo. I've known it years ago. They used to shoot it. Whether or not it's safe or not, some people believe the action's too weak and it's not safe to fire full power loads. Now, some of the European loads are loaded a hell of a lot hotter. Somebody gave me some ammo with a gun, with a Yugo Mauser, and I mean, when I fired them other rounds in there, that stuff was way hotter than anything commercially made in the U.S. So yeah. So why reload when you can still buy it fairly easily and it's still out there? Well, if you got a gun like this or a gun in question, and myself personally, I only reloaded it for hunting because my grandfather's sporterized 98. I used to make hunting ammo. Save, back when you could, by reloading, you save some money. I reload because I use cast bullets like in these guns, and I've gotten good results, and it's safe, and low powered, and it's fun for plinking, and you take the safety factor out. I can load cast bullets, and I even have a low powered load to shoot a standard military bullet in here. Basically, using the bullet weight 30-40 Craig data, you should be safe. So, reloading for this cartridge, again, another simple one. Plenty of people made dies. There are tons of guns out there in 8mm Mauser. So dies are not a problem whatsoever, and they don't cost. They're in the lower range because they're common. Components, you can go online and find 8mm diameter bullets in every shape, size, and weight. So you can trick out whatever you want and everything. And like I said, there are bullet molds and a whole assortment. So it's a fairly easy caliber to reload. Okay, but yet it's still, the surplus ammo under $1 a round is still available pretty readily also. Okay, so it's a tough one, but if you're into the older guns and want to play it safe, maybe something to look into. And the thing is, if you own numerous guns on this list, once you buy the equipment, the standard equipment, you might as well start reloading for all these calibers. Okay, 8x56R. Now these guns came in a few years ago. A whole ton of them come out of Bulgaria and somewhere in Eastern Europe. And they did bring along a lot of surplus ammo from 1938, which that stuff's pretty brutal. Probably has fulminated mercury priming. That's why finding a good bore on any one of these guns is near impossible. But with a good jacketed bullet, they shoot well. So, ammunition. Okay, surplus stuff pretty rapidly went up to $1 a round, if not more. It's probably dried up over the years. You do see it pop up now and again on the clips in the boxes in halfway decent good shape. But again, with a German head stamp 1938, it's more collectible than shootable. You can get PPU ammo. When I looked it up, it's $1.50 a round or something, which for non-corrosive factory fresh ammo that's got reloadable brass, it's comparable to the surplus, so you're better off buying the new ammo and using it. Now, when it comes to reloading this, okay, this is another unusual gun, much like the Carcano. It uses a diameter bullet that would only be used in the 95 rifles in both calibers, which would be 329, okay, is a diameter bullet. And it's used in the 8x56, the 8x50, and the Portuguese Kropacek or Kropacek, as you say, guns use, that's what I know offhand, use that diameter bullet. So it's an oddball bullet. Once again, PPU. PPU is the only place that makes the brass for this, the 5x50 or 8x56. And PPU makes the correct 208 grain bullet that mimics the military load. Okay, dies, you can get dies from Lee, and I have some from CH4D. I don't know if any of the major manufacturers offer them or still do, but Lee does, so that's your best bet. I've used the Lee dies, not a problem with them, they work quite well. Okay, you may wish to get the Rcbs shell holder. Rcbs did make a shell holder for this cartridge. It was kind of a special order, but it works exceptionally well. Okay, it's worth the money to get it. I can't remember if the one that comes with the lead die is a little loose. So this one, again, if you get the components, it's basic reloading. It's just finding the correct components that could be the hassle and a good set of dies. But if Lee makes them or still makes them, the dies really ain't a problem and won't cost you a ton of money. Okay, their CH4Ds are like 80, 90 bucks. Back then, I don't know what they are now. But yeah, this one's kind of in the mid-range. Your hassle is going to be dies, powder and primer, and then again, availability when PPU makes the correct bullet and brass. That can be sold out nowadays for a long time. But doable and a good one to reload. Okay, the 303 British and the Enfield rifles. Not going to get into the rifles that much, other than the fact that these have gone up in price for decent examples, a lot of money. And a lot of the stuff coming in is not that good, especially a lot of that Royal Tiger stuff. Some people made out okay, some have not, depending on the grade. At least they do grade it. But as far as ammo goes, you can find surplus ammo, I've seen it, anywhere from 80 to $1.20 a round. And I believe PPU commercial ammo is $1.80 a round. So this one, as surplus will dry up, I don't know. These may still be in use. Somebody still may be manufacturing the ammunition. I'm not quite sure. It was quite common. At one time, the surplus ammo was quite common and decent. And readily available, but those days probably are rapidly changing. And at $1.80 a round. Again, this caliber, very common when it comes to reloading. So dies are not a problem. Okay, components are not a problem. Just about all U.S. makers made this brass at one time. I don't know if they still do. But your best bet and most affordable, again, would be PPU. Bullets are still made in the 312 diameter for this gun. So finding the proper jacketed bullets is not an issue. So components are available. Where you will run into problems with the 303 Enfield and the rifles that they're made for when it comes to reloading is the way these guns were manufactured. This cartridge head space is off the rim. All the chambers in these rifles were made long. So the reason behind that is no matter if there's a variance in the ammo, it would all fit in the gun. And much like a shotgun, you know, that's in the bottom and the end opens up, when you fire these, all of these guns, no matter what condition they're in, have a tendency, and I'll do a video showing you, when you take the factory brass and then shoot the brass in your gun, you're going to see that the shoulder has gone up forward. The case is shifted dramatically. That is the way the rifle was designed. The rifles were not designed to be reloaded. Okay, that wasn't, when they designed the gun and made the chambers the way they did, they didn't, you know, take into consideration, what if I want to reload the cartridge? So the problem you'll have is when you size this in the proper die, you're going to shrink it back down and you might get one or two reloads for the case just ruptures. So what you would have to do is, well, I already have a set of dies, which they're common and a lot of companies make them. You have to get, and Lee sells it, a special neck sizing die. And what you would do is fire the brass in this particular rifle, resize the neck, and then that way you will get more loads out of your brass. Okay, so this is kind of intermediate difficult. But people have had this issue, a lot of questions on forums, why, you know, I've loaded the thing, why is my brass, you know, coming all undone? That's just the lay of the land with all of these Enfield rifles in this caliber. That's about the only drawback. Plus, you know, that is what I found. $1.80, almost $2 a pop, you know, with shipping and everything, yeah. That's pretty expensive. But reloading is not that terrible. 7.35 Carcano. This is a 6.5 rifle, but I used it. Most of your common variations are going to be this style of gun in the 7.35. This ammo comes under non-existent. Okay, I have the rest of the guns I'm reviewing and the calibers are going to be non-existent. So, what's the deal here? Well, PPU does make the brass. Okay, but you will not find this ammo commercially reloaded. Hornady may have done it at one time, and Hornady still makes the 300 thousandths diameter bullet for this cartridge. Okay, this is probably you're forced to reload these. If you do find one of these cartridge companies, I don't know if Stenel does this, but there are several out there you'll find ammunition, and it's, you know, some people have sent me questions and pictures of this stuff. It was made from 303 British and this and that. You can reload this. Okay, this is another cartridge. I don't shoot a lot of this. I only have 3 guns in this caliber. So you can get, I don't know if Lee makes the dies or not, because I got the, I believe I got Hornady dies. I got the Hornady dies because I like them. And basically the 7.35, you could take a 6.5 and run it up the dies and expand the neck out, trim it, and you can make the brass out of 6.5 brass. Okay, It's just that PPU makes it with the correct head stamp. That way there's no mistaking it. So you might as well go that route. And Hornet A still makes the bullets just specifically for that cartridge. And it's not that terrible to reload, pretty simple once you get the components. The thing is, finding the components may be a problem, okay? Actually reloading the correct components is simple. A lot of people take 308 bullets and swage them down and all this, you know, but you can buy the correct components and load the ammo fairly well. But as far as ammo, when I searched, there is none available. Okay, so that's the situation there. Again, like I said, if you had 4 or 5 guns on this list, you know, maybe you should seriously think about learning to unload, investing the money in the correct equipment, and learning to do this. Okay, next cartridge, and this is on a non-existent list, and it kind of took me by surprise, is the 7.65 by 53 Argentine. Now, there are a bunch of rifles. This one here is an example, and I think I have 2 in that caliber. They're not as quite common as the 7s or the 8mm and that, but they were common enough to where the ammunition was made. Now, I'm surprised PPU ammo isn't available. There's no ammunition available that I found in a search. But reloading this again, okay, PPU does make the brass, and the bullet is the 316 diameter, which is a common diameter that goes in the 7.7 Japanese, the 303 British, and the Mauser Nagant. All use the same diameter bullet. So finding the bullet is not a problem. The brass is made by PPU, and ammunition was available. Actually, most of the brass I got was from ammunition I bought, PPU ammo, and that was in the, you know, in the old days, back in the $19, $20 to $24 a box range. It's not available. So if you have these guns, and again, once you get the correct dies, which I believe Lee makes them, and just about, yeah, I think I have a set in Lee, because Lee made a lot of the military calibers. So dies were not a problem, at least they weren't, I don't know now, but again, simple one. You get the correct diameter bullet and just load it. But to buy ammunition, okay, it's not available at this point in time, which that could change. I think it's just sold out, or maybe the production run was small, or they might have skipped it, okay, because they don't sell a lot of it, so they may skip it for a year or something, who knows. Alright, this is another one, and this took me by surprise years ago. 3040 Krag. Now, just about any rifle adopted by the U.S. military and used for any amount of time, the ammunition was always made by civilian cartridge manufacturers, and the 3040 Krag was no exception. Okay, thousands of these guns were sporterized and used for hunting for many years, and even to this day probably. And to find out that ammunition wasn't available was shocking. Okay, a couple years ago I went to load some up. I got this gun. I wanted to make a 220 grain thing to replicate service ammo, and I couldn't find brass. I couldn't find ammunition. Okay, and when I eventually did find the ammunition, it was close to $40 a box, and this is 4 or 5 years ago, God only knows what. Well, it seems Remington and that, I mean, you used to be able to buy the brass, everything. Remington only runs this every so often, so many years, and will have ammunition and make components. And when they did, after a 2-year stretch, I bought a ton of brass, never got back into reloading it, but I got the brass. Bullets can be found. Dies are quite common. Probably you can find used ones, all right, more easily than you can find new ones. But yeah, it was surprising. And I did a search. There is no ammunition available on AmmoSeek for 30-40 Craig, which is kind of amazing and a shock, but just goes to show you. Reloading for this, if you had a gun like this and you like to hunt with it, shoot with it, reloading for it would probably be a good idea. And maybe in the next few years is going to be the only option you have. You know, once they stop making the brass, it can be problematic. Because I don't know what, 30-40 Craig brass is pretty much unique to itself. It's got a rimmed cartridge. So that goes to show you. Nice gun like this, if you want to shoot it. I doubt very much you will find surplus ammo. This is all civilian, modern stuff. So, it's amazing. Yeah, and it could be years before you'll find ammo again. Remington might not have another production run well after he went into bankruptcy and everything else. Could be a number of years for stuff's available once more. All right, we're going to conclude this here. All right, so that's my little, lecture, I guess, or explanation of all this. And there's a lot of factors. Surplus guns are starting to cost more. Also, the older they get, and a lot of the calibers are no longer in service or being manufactured, or stores of them, even though they've been out of manufacture for a few years, are drying up and gone, and the price of them are going up. So, the sub stuff that was costing 30, 50 cents a piece, those days are gone. And as you see, the average cost of factory ammo for any of these guns is upwards to $1.50, $2 or more. Okay. The difficulty is, even if you have the gun, shooting it, you end up spending more money than what you have into the weapon itself. Now, I know there are a lot of people that don't want to get into reloading and, are not going to get into reloading, casting that like I did. Actually, there's a lot of people that reload but don't want to get into casting either. So, it's tough. If you're the type of person that you buy the gun and you only want to shoot a few rounds out of it, like say 20 rounds. There are some guys I know, they'll buy a gun, they'll shoot 20 rounds, or a handgun, they'll shoot a box of ammo, and that's it. They'll clean the gun up, put it up, and that's in their collection. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but the thing is, doing that, it's going to be an expensive shooting session. Okay, if you like to shoot the guns a lot, like I do, like those French rifles, the Mauser rifles, I bought like 2 cases of like 800 or 1,000 rounds of ammo, and I shot one of them up. Between the 3 guns, I'd go out and just shoot all afternoon long, okay? And just target shooting. I loved it. I had a lot of guns. I've shot tons of ammo through them. Reloading, you will find that reloading may save you where the cost saving is. If you buy all the components new, it's going to cost you about the same amount, if not more, than buying factory ammo. Where your savings comes from in all of this is reusing the brass, which can be the most expensive piece. It ranges anywhere from 75 cents a piece to where the 8x56 is like $1.25 for a brand new piece of brass. So, say you put the round together and it cost $2 with that $1.20 piece of brass. Okay, when you fire it, reload the brass, wash it, clean it and everything, there's labor involved. But now, deduct the brass from the cartridge and then you'll see it's down below $1. Okay, that's how you got to look at it. And again, it's how much you like to shoot. Do you want to shoot it well? And the whole process, if you have a gun that has a shot out bore, whether you reload, use surplus ammo or new factory hunting ammo, if the bore shot out, the gun ain't gonna shoot worth the shit anyway, so you're kind of wasting time and money right there and then. That's why, and I know it's difficult, and I know a lot of people, a lot of things available are not in the best condition, and anything that is in good condition, much like that Brazilian Mauser, you will not see a gun in that shape come up very often for sale. And when you do, it's going to have a pretty big price tag. You better have a stack of hundreds if you want to talk about buying that gun from me or anyone else. Okay? That's the way it goes. Okay, because you cannot, it's difficult to find guns in that condition. Simple as that. So, what I will do is, now that I've showed you what's going on, today is even bad. I had a hard time trying to get this video put together. I'm behind on doing things. I'm in a rush, and it looks like I'll be busy and not be able to make any kind of videos. But on the weekends, I will sit down, and what I will do for members only, and it'll be under the membership videos, is I will cover these calibers that I have info on. Okay, I'll go over what tools I use, what dies I have, or what dies can be available, where you can get the components, or what components to get. And if I have worked up a workable load, I'll give you the load data. Okay, I will not do the virtual crap where I show you this is how you size, this is how you seat the prime. No, you should know that. If you don't know that, then learn how to reload. I'm not going to make a video of me running it to the press, okay? Because most of it is just standard reloading. You size the case, prime the case, put powder in it, and a lot of them bullets have a boat tail, so you don't even have to expand the neck. Just trim it and make sure you chamfer it so there ain't a rough edge, and seat it, crimp it, and you're ready to roll, okay? There's not a lot of variance other than the correct components. And a couple of these calibers, yeah, you gotta either tweak the components, or like the 303 British, end up neck sizing after you fire. You know, there's a couple odd things, but nothing real difficult. You don't have to really fabricate or go out of your way. And a lot of them, those calibers, you know, I call them common calibers, it's pretty easy to get the dies and everything for it, and the components, all right? So that's the way it is, and that's what will be coming up. I'll try to cover each caliber and discuss that in videos. When, I don't know. Okay, like I said, I'm busy today. Right now I got to kind of kick this in the ass and get going because I got phone calls to make and places to go. All right, guys, take it easy.